Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to an episode of the 99 Names. I am your host, Bilal Khan. I'm here with Ammar AlShukry.
Assalamu alaikum.
Salam. And this video, we're not going to talk about a name specifically, like in the previous video or in the vein of the previous video. This time, we're going to talk about
where does this concept of the names of Allah appear in the Quran?
Okay.
Because what we talked about yesterday was, or in the previous video, we said that
5 minutes ago.
5 minutes ago. we talked about how, I don't know why I said yesterday, but
You assume that they're going to be watching this.
No, I wasn't even thinking about that.
No?
I literally went back in a different time. But we talked about how any concept, any name of Allah has to come from the sources.
Sure.
It has to come from the Quran or Sunnah.
Okay.
So even a concept about the names of Allah has to come from the Quran and Sunnah.
Sure.
And so for us to say that Allah has beautiful names in the first place, well, where does that come from?
Okay.
Right, where does this concept of Allah having beautiful asma or al-asma al-husna? It appears in 4 verses in the Quran. The first verse is in Surah Al-A'raf, where Allah says, وَلِلَّهِ الْأَسْمَاءُ الْحُسْنَى فَادْعُوهُ بِهَا. So Allah belongs to the most beautiful name, so call upon Him by it.
Okay.
So Allah belongs to the most beautiful name. So here, this concept is introduced to us.
Sure.
وَلِلَّهِ الْأَسْمَاءُ الْحُسْنَى. And then not only that, but in the same verse, Allah tells us what to do with this information. And so immediately this information becomes actionable, and immediately we are able to hold ourselves to account for taking action. And so do we call upon Allah by these names? And that's really where a lot of behavior has to be changed. When I ask Allah, number 1, do I make dua to Allah in the first place?
Sure.
Number 2, when I do make dua to Allah, do I think about and reflect upon what name would be appropriate for this particular supplication?
You know, this comes from a question, this thought that a lot of times people are like, you know what? I don't want to learn more about whatever, whether it be the name of Allah, fiqh, what have you. Why? Because the stuff that I've already learned, I have not yet applied it. Right? Whereas, this attitude where you're talking about like, okay, we learn these names so that we can take action. But how does one get over this? I would call it an excuse, right? But how do you address that?
By applying it.
Okay.
So I haven't applied what I've learned. So apply it. That's it. Just apply what you've learned. You know what? If we all applied what we learned, we'd be pretty well off. If we all applied what we learned, not just in the religious field, but in
But I would think progress in general has more to do with I would think it's impractical to apply everything you learn, right? It's just not realistic. However, if you make a commitment to make one small change, one small adjustment, and if you're continuously in this, I guess, path of self-development, right? One small change over 100 different sessions of learning, that's 100 small changes. That's a lot of changes.
I agree, especially because a person, I don't think not learning or stopping learning is the answer here. Because learning in and of itself is an action that inshallah is rewardable. The question then becomes taking and becoming better in your application every single time.
Okay.
And I agree with what you're saying. You're not going to be able to apply everything that you learned, but applying some of what you learned and continuing to grow in that. And I think that part of the problem that people think is that they focus too much on the destination, not realizing that it's really about the journey.
How so? The destination? What destination in this case?
The destination in this case would be to be someone who uses all of the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in their supplications, right?
And they're making an hour-long dua and tarawih.
Or not just an hour-long dua and tarawih, maybe, but also like, throughout the week or what have you, they're actualizing or they are activating all of these names with regards to their du'as.
Okay.
Whereas it's not about that, it's about a person coming closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala every single day of their life.
Okay.
And working on that relationship. So that's the first verse.
Essentially you just said working on that relationship, coming closer. It's like one of the number one things in any kind of relationship is communication.
Yeah, communication. I say that I tell people this all the time. A lack of communication will kill a person's relationship between them and their Lord. A lack of communication will kill a person's relationship between them and their family. A lack of communication will kill the relationship between a person and their spouse. A lack of communication will kill the relationship between an employer and their employees, a team leader and their team. Every relationship requires communication.
And so the question is, are you communicating with your Lord?
And communication with us and Allah is two ways. Number one, Allah communicating to us is through the Quran.
Sure.
And us communicating to Allah is through salah and dua.
Sure.
That's how it goes. So without that communication, in either way, the relationship begins to suffer. So coming back to, that's the first place in which surah or the names of Allah is mentioned, this concept. The second place is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, قُلِ ادْعُوا اللَّهَ أَوْ ادْعُوا الرَّحْمَنَ فَأَيًّمَّا تَدْعُوا فَلَهُ الْأَسْمَاءُ الْحُسْنَى. Allah says, call upon Allah or call upon Ar-Rahman. Whoever you call upon, to Him belong the most beautiful names. So whoever you call upon, to Allah belongs the most beautiful names. It was said that
so it doesn't matter who you're calling upon. That's your fault. Allah has the best of beautiful names.
Meaning no matter what you call upon Allah Ar-Rahman, or whether you call upon Al-Kareem, or whether you call upon, they all belong to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Okay.
And this was, again, you have to go back and remember that these people were a polytheistic people.
Right.
And so they automatically thought that a multitude of names indicated a multitude of objects. If you're calling upon many names, then Muhammad, is he calling to one God or is it many gods?
Right.
And that's the question that they posed. When they saw a Muslim saying, Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, they're like, and so Allah says,
is that why they asked, who's Rahman?
Well, Ar-Rahman in particular, they did not know.
Okay.
That name was something that was foreign to them.
Okay.
Whereas Allah was something that they
were new.
Yeah. So
okay.
they said, who's Ar-Rahman? And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, call upon Allah or call upon Ar-Rahman. Number 3, the third verse is in Surah Taha.
Okay.
Allahu la ilaha illahu, lahu al-asma'ul husna.
Okay.
So Allah, there's nothing worthy of worship except for Him. To Him belong the most beautiful names. And here we like to discuss this concept of a multitude of names indicates something being honored in any language.
Sure.
Or in any community.
And what we consider a value. I.e., that one episode where we had, how many names can you think of for money?
Exactly. How many names can you think of for money? And I was just thinking about the greatest cities, for example, they'll have many, many, many names, right? Chicago will be the Windy City, and it will be
Chi-Town.
LA will
Cubs Nation.
LA will be the city of angels, and there will be actually I can't think of anything else for LA.
SoCal? What do they call it? SoCal.
SoCal. New York will be the Big Apple, the city that never sleeps.
5 boroughs.
NYC. So there'll be a lot of names just naturally for it. And then you have, again, we talked about money and we talked about the sword in Arabic and the lion and all of that. Then we have the last verse, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, the Surah Al-Hashr, where Allah mentions 60 names back to back. And so He says, Wallahu alladhi la ilaha illahu, الملك القدوس السلام المؤمن المهيمن العزيز الجبار المتكبر سبحان الله عما يشركون والله الخالق البارئ المصور له الأسماء الحسنى. To Him belong the most beautiful. So this verse is mentioned. And the scholars mentioned something interesting. This section has the most amount of names that are listed. So what's the reasoning? Why the conclusion of this surah?
What's the significance of Surah Al-Hashr?
Well, it comes back full circle. And so they said, take it back to the beginning of the surah. Okay. The beginning of the surah is talking about a conflict that happened between the believers.
Okay.
And those who were living in the city from before. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then shows...
versus...
No, not the Muhajirin and the Ansar. Muhajirin and the Ansar versus a different community that was in Medina at that time. Okay. That was expelled. And so the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَالَّذِي أَخْرَجَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا مِنْ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ مِنْ دِيَارِهِمْ لِأَوَّلِ الْحَشْرِ. He removed them from their houses. They were expelled. And the point here is that this conflict...
Is that what Hashr means? Eviction?
No. Hashr means gathering.
Okay.
It's the exact
Opposite, okay.
But the point here is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or what some of the scholars have said, is that this shows you that in conflict, a person should return back to seeking support from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through His names and attributes. Okay. So at the end of this surah that's talking about conflict, Allah is listing out for you a multitude of names, indicating that for you, in your own daily conflicts, the conflicts of your life, that you access Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by His name.
Okay.
And Allah knows best.
I mean, is there something specific as to why He chose these names?
With regards to these names? I don't know. That I do not know.
Okay.
I mean, maybe there's some sort of analysis for every single name why this particular name, but I've never come up with that.
Gotcha. Okay. Cool. So this is where the concept of
what?
The 99, well, not 99, but the names and attributes of Allah comes
All four of these verses is where the concept of the names of Allah is presented in the Quran. Okay. That's why we can say Allah has beautiful names. How do we know that? From these verses.
When did they start codifying the 99? Like, these are the 99, or coming up with their version of the 99?
We have versions as early as...
Like the companions, did they have their version?
No. I've never seen anything from the companions, from the tabi'een. No, I haven't seen anything from the tabi'een, but from the tabi'een, yes.
Okay. We're talking
third generation.
Like, so anyone in particular?
Of the most famous ones is the list of Walid ibn Muslim.
Okay.
And Walid ibn Muslim is one of the narrators that At-Tirmidhi uses.
Sure.
And so you're talking very early on. At-Tirmidhi uses the list of Walid ibn Muslim because Walid ibn Muslim, when he was reporting the hadith of Abu Hurairah, where he says Allah has 99 names, the Prophet said Allah has 99 names, 100 except for one. Whoever encompasses them will enter into paradise.
Yeah.
This hadith is reported by Tirmidhi, it's reported by Bukhari and Muslim and others. Al-Bukhari and Muslim, they stop right there. That's where their hadith ends.
Okay.
Whereas Tirmidhi has one narration where it says, and they are. And then you have the list that's on everybody's poster and, the famous list. The list is actually not the list of the Prophet ﷺ. It's the list of Walid ibn Muslim. So he said to his students, this is what the Prophet ﷺ said, and they are. And then he gave his own list.
Okay. So the Prophet ﷺ never communicated.
He never told us a list.
Okay. And the companions never had their own? Or nothing
has reached us.
Okay. Got it. I'm just wondering why it took so long for this codification to stay, to 3 generations.
Why did it take 3 generations?
Yeah.
They were busy doing other things. Really, I mean, that first generation, I mean, they were...
It wasn't something that was...
They weren't even narrating hadith.
True.
Mostly. I mean, you're talking about the elder Sahaba.
Yeah.
I mean, their entire lives were spent in conflict.
Is it fair to say that they kind of already embodied it?
Absolutely. I mean, they were calling Allah, using them, and all of these types of things. They were explaining the meanings of these names. So when you look at, for example, the name of Samad, you find Ibn Abbas explaining what a Samad means. Okay. So they were teaching it.
Okay.
But the idea of codifying it and creating a list, this is what the list is, no. And possibly also, maybe it could be, and Allah knows best, that they appreciated the notion that the Prophet ﷺ, when he wouldn't tell us
what the names were,
and he wouldn't list them out for us, just because it's about the journey and it's not about the destination. Sure. Just like he didn't tell us about Laylatul Qadr, and just like he didn't tell us about the hour on Friday.
Okay.
Where your dua is accepted.
But it's between what? Dhuhr and Asr?
No, he said there is an hour on Friday.
Okay.
And then scholars, they made their own. Some said that it's when the Imam sits down on the minbar. Some said he sits in between the 2 khutbahs.
Okay.
Some said that it's the last hour on Friday. And so it's up to them
Oh, so it could be any time from the point the sun sets on Thursday night up until the sun sets on Friday.
No, or that's possible, or just during the day on Friday as well.
Interesting. So, how do you say 99 in Arabic?
Tis'a wa tis'een, or tis'atun wa tis'un.
Okay, so that's tis'a meaning 90?
No, tis'a meaning 9.
9?
It's 9 and 90.
Oh, so they go the other way around. So they always say the second number first. So that's why they say ahada ashara.
Yes.
For 11.
Yes.
As opposed to, okay, that's, because so Yusuf, that was the thing. I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
why does it say Ahad Ashara?
Yeah.
That's-
You
It's like
put
1
the-
and 10.
Exactly.
So
That's exactly what you
9 and 90. Interesting. This is one of the things that has always been interesting with language. Getting to, like, the first thing that my parents taught me was math. Like, they didn't bother teaching me, like, any, like, languages or the words. Like, no, here's a math book. Literally, like, I was doing multiplication by the time I was in first grade. So, and then when it came to mom teaching me Urdu and Hindi, like, she taught me the entire numbers table all the way to 100. Same thing in Spanish. They're like, learn the numbers and how to say the numbers in Spanish. But in Arabic, saying the numbers in Arabic has always been confusing. Because it's backwards. Now I'm realizing why.
I see. So I'm very interested in the issue of learning the numbers in all these different languages. So until now, you can count us 100 in Spanish?
Yeah. All the way from like 100. Uno ochocientos. You want me to go for it? Uno,
Not
12, 13,
challenging.
14, 15,
Okay.
17, 18, 19.
I hope you probably said it now. I hope.
40.
Okay, 40.
That's 40 by the way.
Alright, we're gonna 40 out of here. We're gonna wrap this one up. It's been 40 minutes, I'm sure, in this video.
No, it has been 17 momentos.
Assalamu
Assalamu alaikum.
alaikum.